Hi, I'm Birkan, VP of Product at Enterpret. Thank you for joining me. Today, I want to tackle a question every product team faces. AI is making how to build easier than ever, but it hasn't solved the harder problem of what to build first, especially if you're drowning in customer feedback from dozens of different sources. But before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself. I spent over a decade in product management, leading products at Google, Stripe, Notion, and now at Enterprise. My journey has taken me from consumer products serving hundreds of millions of users to enterprise SaaS serving Fortune 500 companies. Here's what's interesting. I actually started my career as a customer support agent at Google, working with advertisers on Google Ads. I was on the front lines every single day, hearing directly from our customers about their challenges. And that experience shaped everything that came after. Now at Enterpret, my career has come full circle. I contribute to building a product that helps companies understand their customer feedback at scale, serving the very audiences I've lived as, product managers and CX teams. So let's talk about what brings us here today. AI is transforming product development. It's making how to build easier and cheaper every single day, with tools like Cursor, Cloud Code, engineering velocity is accelerating faster than ever. But here's the interesting thing. AI doesn't solve the harder question, what to build first, what matters most to our customers, what will actually move our business metrics. And this is the question every product team struggles with. We are all drowning in customer feedback. Support tickets, CSAT, NPS surveys, sales call transcripts, app reviews, community forums, and more. The feedback is everywhere, but turning that noise into clarity, that's where most teams are getting stuck. So today, I want to share two frameworks with you. First, a maturity framework to help you identify where your team is today in terms of how you handle customer feedback. And second, an operational framework for how to actually leverage AI and customer intelligence throughout your product development lifecycle, from planning to launch. And these are not theoretical. They come from real lessons I learned at Google, Stripe, and Notion, and now what I see working with our customers at Enterpret. Let's dive in. First, let's start with the maturity framework. I've seen a consistent pattern. Teams evolve through similar phases as they scale. Most teams don't even realize they've outgrown their tools until something breaks. And manual work starts piling up, planning cycles slow down, leaders feel disconnected from what customers are actually saying. So let me walk you through these three phases, and I want you to think about where your team is today. Phase one. When you're small, maybe 1 to 3 people on your product team, your intuition works great. You're reading every piece of feedback, maybe a few hundred items. You're talking to early users regularly. And honestly, all this context fits into your head. At this stage, quick AI summaries are enough. You paste the CSV into ChatGPT, Claude, ask for teams, and move on. You're looking for a broad direction, not for precision. And your tools are simple. Spreadsheets, Slack channels with your customers, Google Forms, Zoom transcripts, granular summaries. That's perfect. At this stage, the goal is to ship fast and trust your judgment. I've been at early stage startups as well, and it works. Let's not overcomplicate it. But then your team grows, and complexity grows with it. Now you have more users, more features, more surfaces generating feedback. Your product team expands to maybe 5, 6 people, and suddenly the old workflow starts to creak. Two problems starts to appear. First, you find yourself going back to the same list of power users again and again for insights because they are the easiest to reach out to. But now you risk burning them out with too many research requests. Second, your insights become biased towards a small, highly engaged group. You're not hearing from the silent majority. And at this point, your feedback volume has jumped maybe to 2,000 to 5,000 records a year. LLM starts struggling to hold that much context. So you now can't read these things anymore, one by one. Manual tagging becomes a recurring tax on your team. So what do teams do? They adopt a basic feedback tool. They run quarterly deep dives. They ask questions like, what changed the cycle? What should we validate before the next roadmap? Yes, you're becoming data informed, but it's manual and slow. Insights arrive in batches, often after you make your decisions, after you lock down your roadmap plans. Not before, not continuously. And if this sounds familiar, yes, you're in phase two. The tipping point comes when your product and organization become too complex for manual workflows. You now have 6 or more PMs, multiple product areas, different types of users, feedback volumes well beyond 5,000 records per year. Now traditional approaches break. And I live this at every company I worked at. At Google, we had feature requests from hundreds of millions of consumer individual users, but also from Fortune 500 companies. How do you prioritize across these completely different segments? At Stripe, we had developer feedback coming from 10 people startups and Fortune 500 companies literally using the same APIs on the dashboard. Whose voice matters more? The startup founder who's vocal on X, or the enterprise accounts that are double-digit % of your revenue? At Notion, we started with individual users like students, freelancers, then we moved to SMBs, mid-market, and then enterprise. And the challenge was the 3 customers requesting a feature might rank low by volume, but those 3 customers could represent double-digit % of your enterprise revenue. This is where the volume-based metrics fail. The loudest voice may not be the most important voice all the time. And similarly, the most important voice may not always be the most revenue-generating voice. So at this scale, things start to break. Manual tagging, impossible with tens of thousands of feedback records. Quarterly reports, too slow when your product changes on a weekly basis. And out-of-the-box LLMs alone, they can't handle this much context without a persistent knowledge graph or a taxonomy that understand your specific products and business and customers. So now, at this stage, the shift you need is a shared view of customer reality that lets you prioritize at the portfolio level, linked to your revenue, retention, satisfaction, and your business metrics. So here's my question for you. Which phase are you in? And if you're in a scaling company, you're likely in phase 3, or you're heading in that direction soon. And once you reach phase 3, you need an operational framework for how to actually use customer intelligence throughout your product lifecycle. And that's what I would like to share next. So now let's segue to the operational framework. I'll ground this in how I actually used Enterpret at Notion, how our customers use it today, and how any phase 3 product team can apply this framework. There are 3 stages where customer feedback should inform your decisions: planning, scoping, and launch. And let's start going through those stages together. First, stage 1 is planning. Every quarter, you're making bets, taking calculated risks as a PM. What are the top 5 or 10 things you're building? What will move the business metrics? This is where most teams struggle, because traditional feedback analysis gives you volume. How many people ask for this feature? How many tickets mention this bug? But volume alone might be misleading. Here's what I learned. You need to quantify feedback by more than just count. For example, revenue impact. If you integrate your CRM data with your feedback system, you can see which feature requests come from customers representing the most revenue. Suddenly, those 3 enterprise customers asking for a specific feature isn't ranked at number 20. It's ranked at number 3 because they represent X% of your revenue. CSAT and NPS impact. Which issues are tanking your satisfaction scores? Which feature gaps are leading to NPS detractors? And finally, customer segment. Are those requests coming from your ideal customer profile, from your enterprise customers you're trying to land, or are they coming from a segment that you're trying to deprioritize? When we had these type of dashboards at Notion, Google, that showed feature requests ranked by revenue, retention, satisfaction potential, it changed the conversation dynamics completely. Instead of the loudest voice in the room winning, they could say, here's the data, these are the top requests from our enterprise segment customers weighted by revenue, and these are the top complaints impacting our CSAT. Let's make decisions based on that, grounded on the customer reality. It anchored our planning in objective metrics, not just intuition or whoever spoke up most in those meetings. And now, you might be asking, Birkan, can't I just build dashboards in Looker, Tableau that can pull these things from my support tickets and survey data? The tricky part is manual dashboards break at the scale because by the time you tag and categorize tens of thousands of feedback items, the data is already stale. Your product has already moved. And this is where Enterpret's customer intelligence knowledge graph can become critical. At Enterpret, we automatically ingest feedback from every source in real time. Support tickets, app reviews, NPS surveys, sales calls, chat transcripts. The knowledge graph understands your product taxonomy, your customer segments, your business context. It connects the dots across channels and surfaces the signals that matters. So when you open the dashboard showing a feature request ranked by revenue impact, you're not looking at a manually tagged data from last month. You're looking at live intelligence that's automatically categorized, enriched with business context, and ready to inform your decisions today. So the first takeaway for stage 1 is don't just count feedback, quantify it by business impact, and make sure your system can do that automatically in real time at scale. All right, now let's move to stage 2. You've decided what to build. Now you need to understand why and how to build. And this is the scoping phase. You're defining the user problems, validating your hypotheses, figuring out the right solution. And let me be clear about something. Nothing beats talking to users directly. There's no substitute for that. Every PM should still do user research, talk to customers. That's not going away. But if you want to do it at scale, if you want to validate hypotheses quickly and find the right users to talk to, AI can become an ally, a force multiplier. At Notion and now at Enterpret, we use Enterpret's AI assistant Wisdom extensively, multiple times a day. For example, let's say you have a hypothesis about why users are struggling with a feature. Instead of spending 2 weeks setting up user interviews, you can ask AI, what are the top pain points user mentioned about our onboarding flow? And you will get an answer in seconds, grounded in thousands of pieces of real feedback that you already have in your system. Similarly, when you're ready to do interviews, you can ask, who are the customers requested the linear integration over the last 6 months? Give me a list of those users so that I can reach out to them for user research purposes. And last but not least, let's say you're making progress, you're getting ready to launch an alpha, beta, and early access version of your product. Then you can ask Wisdom, who are the customers complained about this current reporting capability? They would be great candidates for the early access for the upcoming new dashboard reporting capabilities. Before, like a personal example that I love using Wisdom for is before customer meetings, I ask Wisdom, I have a meeting with this company's leadership team. Can you please prepare me? What are their top issues? What feature requests that they shared with us before? What's their sentiment been over time? And in 30 seconds, I get the context that I need, which would otherwise taken me hours to compile manually. So the key takeaway for stage 2 is use AI to accelerate your research, your learning velocity, your intuition building velocity. Yes, it doesn't replace talking to users directly. However, it helps you find the right users to talk to and validate your hypotheses and assumptions so that you can accelerate time to market. All right, let's move on to the third stage, which is the post-launch phase. You've planned it, you scoped it, you built it, and now you're ready to launch. And this is where most teams drop the ball. They ship the feature, they celebrate, and they move on. The organization never builds the muscle to learn from what they ship. How do you prove the impact? And the habit is simple. You can start creating launch-specific dashboards and run before and after analysis. Our customers at Enterpret create tracking dashboards in Enterpret for every major launch and use Wisdom AI Assistant to analyze the impact before and after. I'll share 2 concrete examples. Say you identify the login bug. Users weren't receiving account verification emails. It generated 2,000 support tickets per week. You fixed it. Now tickets drop to 200 per week. That's a 90% reduction, quantifiable, provable, and then you present to that leadership saying that here's the impact of our engineering investment. Now you have the data to back it up. Let's say for some of the big feature launches, let's say you're shipping your new AI chatbot or you're launching local data residency, you can track what was the feature request volume before and after, what was the revenue impact, what's the sentiment now, and how did we move the needle? You can simply ask these questions in a natural language to Wisdom, and it will generate this report for you. And this is incredibly powerful for product managers. We all know the frustration of shipping something great and not being able to prove it mattered. And with before and after tracking, you can go to your quarterly business review and say, we were getting X complaints about this problem. We shipped the fix. Now we are getting Y many complaints. And here's the customer impact. So the key takeaway for this third stage is, let's focus on building launch dashboards and use AI-powered before and after analysis to track your impact. Prove the value of your work with data. Now, at this point, I would like to talk about how Enterpret can help you across these 3 stages. Enterpret is an agentic customer intelligence platform that connects to all your customer feedback channels, unify them, connect them with your business context, then use custom AI models to transform that raw feedback into actionable insights, helping you drive business impact. We integrate all the customer feedback coming from different sources. We use AI to turn it into actionable insights. Then you can use our dashboard capabilities and our AI assistant Wisdom to quickly understand the top emerging trends and feedback quantify them not just based on the feedback volume, but based on the business impact, such as revenue, satisfaction, retention metrics. And finally, with our AI agents, we can listen to the incoming feedback 24/7 and help you act on these feedback as quickly, as effectively possible, so that you can close the loop with your customers. So at this stage, I would like to start showing you how Enterpret works, and I will quickly share a demo instance so that I can walk you through how you can use Enterpret, how Enterpret can help you throughout the 3 stages that we just walked. So I'm showing you a test instance based on an imaginary B2B business. So now, in this dashboard, I can get a very high-level understanding of my customer feedback, the channels that I'm getting the feedback from. I have my Qualtrics survey here, my Salesforce opportunity feedback is here, Gong sales conversations are here. I can see how the feedback volume is trending through those sources. And quickly, I can get a high-level summary of my key themes and insights. Enterpret's Wisdom AI Assistant is able to run these type of very complex analysis in a few minutes, in a few seconds, and give you a very robust report. Our Quantify charting capabilities can help you quickly understand what are your top feedback themes and trends, how they change over time. For example, you can apply different slicing and dicing to this data. How about seeing how your customer sentiment is changing across different customer segments, your enterprise plan customers versus mid-market customers? Similarly, being able to see the feedback distribution among your enterprise accounts. Having these kind of filtering capabilities, charting capabilities can quickly help you drill down to what matters most. And similarly, you can also do time-based analysis by comparing how the feedback trends are changing over time. In this example, I'm comparing this 3 months compared to the last 3 months to immediately see these insights. And we talked about the importance of not just looking at the count of feedback, but also the business impact of your feedback, such as retention, revenue, satisfaction. And in Enterpret, you can quickly slice and dice the data based on those dimensions as well. For example, now I'm looking at my overall CSAT impact and NPS impact for this imaginary business. And I can then look at my feedback themes across those dimensions. For example, these are my top complaints based on feedback volume. Quickly, I can see the feedback themes based on the NPS impact, and then I can understand the revenue impact of those feedback themes. And last but not least, I can utilize Wisdom throughout the product to ask any questions that you can think of, and it will provide me deep research quality answers within seconds. The second stage that I was talking about is you can use Wisdom during your scoping, your implementation phase to quickly validate your hypothesis, discover customer user pain points, etc. And it's as simple as asking those questions to Wisdom in a natural language. When you ask this kind of a question, first it will do a deep thinking, and then it will provide you a deep research quality answer. We talked about the importance of grounding your responses, your AI-generated responses on your customer knowledge graph. And every insight that you get from this Wisdom query is grounded on the actual data. With one click, I can see all the actual feedback records. And with one click, I can actually see the raw feedback, and I can continue my drill down easily. All right. The last stage was about doing the post-launch impact analysis, and using Enterpret, that's also easy. For each major feature launch, you can create a dedicated dashboard like this, where you can see the before and after impact. How many feedback records we were getting before, how many feedback records we are getting now, what are the top complaints and praises that we are getting about this particular launch, how is it changing? For example, this was the feedback volume we were getting before. We launched the feature, now we see a reduction. Yes, things are working, but you know what? It's actually going back again. So maybe the issue is not fully addressed. It helps you identify these kind of trends as well. And you can embed these feed widgets into your dashboard so that you can literally see the raw feedback across all these sources in a single unified place. And then finally, utilizing Wisdom, you can generate these type of executive level post-launch impact analysis within seconds. You can give a custom prompt, as complex custom prompt as you can think of, and Wisdom will be able to give you these extensive deep research quality reports as well. And then finally, we talked about the importance of acting, closing the loop with customers, and there where Enterpret's AI assistant comes into play. So Enterpret listens to customer feedback 24/7, and whenever it detects a feedback anomaly, whenever it detects a feedback that are emotionally intense, that are emotionally charged, these agents are able to immediately alert you on Slack and email so that you can act on these issues before it turns into escalations, before it turns into incidents, helping you act and close the loop with your customers faster. And with that, I would like to start wrapping up my presentation. Let's go back to the deck real quick. All right, that was a high-level overview about Enterpret. And now I would like to share more details that one principle we believe strongly at Enterpret is that all the customer insights that you have just shown shouldn't be trapped inside in any single tool. Work happens across Slack, Linear, Jira, Notion, your favorite IDE. And that's why at Enterpret, we've built integrations so you can access customer intelligence from wherever you already work, including an MCP server, so you can query from tools like Claude, Cursor, ChatGPT. And the goal is to make insights accessible at your fingertips, not locked away in a dashboard you have to remember to check. All right, let me bring it all together. Today, we covered two frameworks. First, the maturity framework, 3 phases of feedback maturity. Phase 1, you're small, intuition works great, use simple tools. Phase 2, you're growing, complexity hits, manual processes start to strain. And phase 3, you're scaled, traditional tools break, you need a system that links feedback to your business context. Second, we talked about the operational frame, how to leverage customer intelligence throughout your product development lifecycle. We talked about the importance of this during planning, quantifying feedback, not just based on the volume of feedback, but also based on the revenue impact, retention impact, satisfaction impact. We talked about stage 2, the scoping. How can you use AI to validate your hypothesis, find the right users to talk to faster, more effectively? And then stage 3, post-launch. How you can utilize a customer intelligence platform like Enterpret to build before and after dashboards and AI-powered analysis to prove your impact. The biggest mistake I see teams make, forcing phase 1 or phase 2 tools to operate at phase 3 scale. You cannot manually tag 50,000 pieces of feedback. You cannot rely on quarterly reports when your product changes on a weekly basis. You cannot use LLMs out of the box alone without a persistent knowledge graph that understands your business. And if you're spending more time organizing feedback than using it to ship meaningful work, you've crossed that threshold. And now it's time to upgrade your system. So here's my challenge to you. Whether you're in phase 2, getting ready to scale, or in phase 3, looking for better systems, think about how you can transform overwhelming feedback into your competitive advantage. The most powerful insights come from listening, and the best product teams make that listening process scalable and impactful. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope these frameworks are useful as you think about your own product strategy. And if you want to connect, please feel free to reach out over LinkedIn and check out Enterpret at www.enterpret.com. Thanks, everyone.